Whoa, oh, do you want a resolution? Woo, woo. I said, do you want a resolution? Woo, woo. So I'm laughing because, of course, you gotta always make yourself laugh in life, right? But I'm also laughing because I'm like, I always end up recording these very late at night. So I'm like, I live in a townhouse. I'm like, get the people like next door hear these random songs, um, and I believe maybe one of these songs will save people's lives one day. They will find Jesus. Although that is not how the song goes, of course. Do You Want a Revolution by Kurt Franklin? But that's it's not what we're doing tonight. So, but anyway, welcome back to the first episode of the Create as Well podcast in 2025. I have been messing that up all week long, and probably will continue. I was talking to somebody today in a meeting about last year, and I was referring to 2023, and they were very confused, and I was confused as to why they were confused. But turns out they were right. I was wrong. So I do understand that I can be wrong. But yeah, I was just shocked because I was like, oh, it's 2025, which means last year was 2024, which means the previous year was 2023, and so on and so on and so on. So anyway, but Creators World Podcast for those who are just tuning in for the first time ever, and whatever else, like maybe you're coming back, maybe you've forgotten, catch up on the holiday episodes that weren't very holiday-y. That wasn't really the plan, but of course, we're at the Creators World Podcast, nothing ever goes according to plan. So here we are. But the Creators Well podcast is for Christian creatives, entrepreneurs, purpose seekers, and visionaries who desire and have the need to be refreshed, renewed, revitalized, just kind of put back on the right path for your God given purpose and calling. Because we know that life is hard. There are obstacles in this life that we face that prevent us or that try to prevent us from getting into our calling and doing the things that God has called us to do. But this platform exists so that it can speak to creatives such as myself to give you the things that God's given me so that you can keep on going forward. I don't know why I'm doing like a recap, but started in 2022. Was supposed to start in like 2019 or 2020, but for me, it's always 2 to 3 years of delayed obedience. Delayed obedience, still disobedience. But anyway, I did a conference in 2022. Then 2023 didn't actually do it. I launched Holy Hoodlum then, and then I came back in 2024, in January 2024, which at this point was almost a whole year ago, with a second Create as Well. And now we're gearing up for the third in-person Create as Well, which will be on Saturday. I was about to say September. That's wrong. Saturday, February 1st. Same place as always. My church is very gracious to allow us to do it there. So hit us up. Link will be, follow me on social media. Link is in the bio. I'll put the link in the description. But the Create as Well in-person experience is essentially now going to be an extension of this podcast. It's going to be a live podcast show, essentially. But it's not going to be just me talking the whole time because one, that would bore me. Two, I don't believe I'm that interesting. And I don't think you should pay that much for that. That's kind of crazy. And three, I'm a creative at heart. Even though I'm very logistically minded, very able to administratively gifted is what I really should say. Administratively gifted, logistically minded. But growing up, I actually had a whole lot of like creative ideas. I was always writing plays, singing songs, writing short stories, all of the above, coming up with music, all sorts of like movies in my head. Then I found math, and someone told me that you couldn't be both creative and like math. And I said math majors make more money, so I stuck with math. Got really, really good at math because of my administrative gifting. But now later in life, I've kind of gone back to what my first love was, which but it's a good combination of both because a lot of creatives can get stuck. And I am grateful because I feel like I'm one of the creatives that unstucks myself often because of the logistical skills to say, we need a plan, we need this, we need that. And that's exactly what we're talking about tonight. And that was such a good segue because I had no plan of going down that rabbit hole. Like I said, this podcast, there's a script, but we throw the script out. So it is what it is. But 2025, it's a new year. Everyone's telling you new year, new me, new vision, blah, 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 blah. My encouragement is to do the last thing that God told you to do. You don't necessarily need a new vision and a new plan. You need to execute on what God has already given you. And that is hard because a lot of times the thing that he's giving you hasn't worked. But today I want to dive into like why those things haven't worked. But we'll start by reading Habakkuk 2, verse 2. Very common scripture. But one random thing. I always said if I had a kid, I would name the kid Habakkuk and I would call him Happy for short. That people thought I was kidding. That was actually kind of serious, but I wouldn't actually name my child's first name Habakkuk. Maybe the middle name. We'll see. But at this point, team no kids. So it is what it is. And by team no kids, I just have no kids. But that's also great because I'm single. So, wonderful. Anyway, Habakkuk 2:2. Write my answer, also vision. Write the vision plainly on tablet so that a runner can carry the correct message to others. Verse 3, the vision is for a future time. It describes the end and it will be fulfilled. If it seems slow in coming, wait patiently, yuck, for it will surely take place. It will not be delayed. So, as people in my church will say, the word of God for the people of God. People talk about Habakkuk 2:2 all the time, right? The vision, make it plain. Like people sing songs about it. What's that song? The Vision by Patrick something. I don't know. That's what I should have sang, but that's a choir song. But anyway, people talk about Habakkuk 2:2 all the time about vision. It always comes up at this time of year, right? Like you're gonna hear somebody's church saying, "We're doing Vision Sunday. We're launching a new thing because Habakkuk 2:2 says, write the vision, make it plain." Totally fine with that. No issues there. I think the next part is the part that we often miss. Write the vision, make it plain, so that there's a B clause, and that's important. That's extremely important for us creatives, entrepreneurs, and visionaries, because we need to have the vision plainly written so that somebody can execute or receive what we're doing. So, you might be a solo entrepreneur and you might be saying, Justin, I don't have a team, I don't have a staff, I don't have any money. Like, what are you doing here? If you are a solo person, let's say you're a writer, you're a singer, you're an artist, you do whatever, you sell merch on your own, whatever the case is, you do your thing. Yes, it's by yourself, but the vision needs to be written out so plainly so that your customers have no confusion as to what it is that they're buying into, that they're coming to, right? So people should be able to come to your website, people should be able to come to your Instagram, and it's going to be very practical today. So take notes if you want to or whatever, but like make sure that your bio, make sure that your website, make sure that everything, all that copy, and for those who may not be familiar with that marketing term, copy it really just means writing. So like your captions, your bios, your written stuff. So make sure that stuff is clear, right? So if you have an Instagram and you are a singer, I don't know why I always go to that. But if you say nothing in your Instagram bio about singing, what are you doing? If your website, if you're trying to portray that you are a speaker, but your website has nothing about your accomplishments or what you speak about, what are your choice topics, whatever the case is, but it talks about your merchandise or something like that, like that's the first thing people see. What do you like? It's not clear, right? On the other hand, the more obvious answer, the more obvious thing to talk about is for those creatives who have teams, who have staff that work, that labor among you, as church people would say. You have to get it so that people can understand exactly what's to happen at every given point. Here's the thing, and this is something I have learned as I've been doing events over the past, I guess, 2 years, 3 years, like of my own events. I'll be very clear about that. I've been doing other people's events for like over 10 years. But when I've been really producing my own events, pandemic did virtual events. So really since 2019. But anyway, since I've been producing my own events, I have learned that it makes perfect sense up here. It is fully laid out. But if it's not written down, other people will stumble. Because even though they know you, even though they love you, even though they care, they're not you. So nobody is going to do it exactly how you would do it. So that's, rule number one. People are not going to do things exactly the way that you do things. And that's okay because people are people and they do their own thing. But if you like haven't told them what they need to do, then you can't fault them for that, right? So if you got an event and you're talking to a planner or a person or whatever the case is, and it's not written out clearly for that vendor or whoever it is to accurately carry out your vision, did the event fail because of you or did it fail because of the vendors that you selected? You are responsible for writing the vision. Other people have to carry it out. Other people have to be able to hear it, but you have to write it down. And it's important for you to do it because you received the vision from the Lord, right? So you had the idea for the event. So for my example, right? I have to be the one to talk about the create as well. I have to be the one to talk about the platform. Why? Because God came to me and I wrote it down on a notebook years ago because he told me about it. So I have to be now have that responsibility to take said vision that's inside, bring it out, write it out so that you can see it in a way that you can understand it. So that is like the first task of the year. So whatever your vision is that maybe you didn't complete from last year, maybe God has given you a fresh vision or win for this year. Totally fine. Write it down. Tim Ross he has the basement podcast. And one of the episodes he talked about, or it might have actually been the launch of the B-side. So when he had the event, he talked about how he was out to lunch with somebody who was an investor, and they just had started talking about how like something along the lines of like they wanted to either invest in an app or they would be interested in investing in an app or community, some sort of base product like that. And so what Tim Ross did is he took like it was already written out all the steps, all the things that he needed. So he was able to basically slide that man a Google Doc or whatever it was, a piece of paper, a notebook, whatever it was. He was able to write it to him, and that person gave him, I don't know if it was 100% of the funding or like most of the funding. I don't really remember how, but they brought funding to him. Why? God's favor, yes, but two, he had it written down. There's a practical component to our Christian success. And I think a lot of times we miss that. So write it down. What is it that you are to do this year? Write it down and put it somewhere that you can see it. Because again, if you're solo, right? Because I think this is where I stumble at least, because I technically am a solo entrepreneur. I have a team of people who help me with my events, but like the day-to-day stuff, my client work, whatever the stuff, that it's really all me and like AI. And very little AI at that. But anyway, so like there are things that it's pretty much just me, but I like if somebody were to reach out to me and say, Justin, what is the create as well? I have a document that can show them what the create as well is, and they can buy into it or not. If someone wants to ask me what Holy Hoodlum is, they can do that. I don't actually have one for this podcast, now that I think about it, but it kind of fits under the create as well umbrella. It's now just a vehicle in which we help to refresh, renew, and revitalize Christian creatives. So, it's written in progress. Carols for a Cause. I've got that written down. Like, I have the stuff that God has given me to write down. So I would encourage every one of you to write something down, whether it's a vision board, whether it's digital, whether it's physical, whether it's however you do it, just write it down. And like whether it's electronic or like whatever way, write it down. Make it plain. That's what like the Bible says that. So this is good practice. Like if y'all want to get homework from this, I think that you should. I will be giving homework at the Create as well, the in-person event, because we have to actually do some work, right? So my encouragement would be write down the vision, but don't just write out like a high-level description of it. Write down how you do it. So for me, for the Create as well, the original, and I say original, that was, I always knew it was going to be more than just an in-person event, right? I wanted to take it on tour. I wanted to do all the things. Let me find that actually. See, no plans, no plans whatsoever. I think it's titled Next Steps. Let's see. Oh no, now it wants to search slowly. It's gonna search slowly. It's gonna put me to shame on the internet, and the internet is forever. Okay. So this was written after the first Create as well. The create as well will be for Christians for the Christian space, what Afrotech is for the tech space, and what Forbes is for business. The create as well will have a media empire from it, highlighting creatives that have any people who are. We will have several outlets such as things that are Forbes 30 under 30. They have a media spotlights. They will have grants. They will have things coming from the beginning. Scholarships ranging from $500 to people starting up to being able to fully fund people's events because events are something that are near and dear to your heart. Subsequent events that will come from the create as well will be called refreshers. We will host retreats. We will take ski trips. I don't know why specifically ski trips. This was written in June. um, we will and it just goes. I won't read that part because it goes on and on and on to other stuff. um so I say all that to say that I got even more specific with it, but I'm trying to read through the document right now. I'm not going to sit up here and read that entire thing, but I talked about what the create as well will become. And I in that thing I talked the media outlets. I talked about there will be a podcast community. There will be all of the things, and those things are happening now, right? So we've got the podcast now. We're talking about creativity. We're talking about refreshing. We're doing what was written down in the vision. Here's the thing. Now, when we talk about resolutions, now this is really what my mind was like focused on talking about, was like resolutions. What we need to resolve to do is to do the thing that we resolve to do. I'm resolving to actually do the resolution because we get so excited in January. We can normally make it through about February, March, maybe. I'm gonna give you to March. Researchers, I think they say quitting day is like January 10th of resolutions, right? That's not good. That's only 10 days. So whether it's like I'm gonna eat healthy, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, you lose your steam. But with creatives, it's different, especially when you're trying to do business. A lot of these visions and ideas of what thing we're going to accomplish, and we lose sight of that thing. So that's why, number one, we need to write it down. Number two, we need to work on systems that actually make sense to make the vision happen, right? The Lord gives you the vision. He talks about the messenger carrying the vision so that the vision will carry out. He didn't just say the vision will fall from the sky and the provision will all be there. God gives you provision for the journey, right? The last year's created as well in 2024, which was last year, not 2023. We talked about the journey and how a lot of times in the journey you just don't want to, right? Because it's tiring, it's whatever. But you can't necessarily just expect to get to the destination. And that's really what this vision is saying as well. Though the vision may tarry, I think that's like King James or whatever. But though the vision may take a while, it's going to happen. So I think for us as creatives, our encouragement is know that the vision is going to come to pass. If God said it, it will happen. His word will not return to him void. He's not a man that he should lie, etc., etc., etc. His promises are true. And I'm not saying that flippantly, but like there's lots of scripture and lots of things that are in place to remind us of this truth, but we have to stay the course to do it. So we're staying the course. Make sure that you have systems. So let's talk about a good example for me. So merchandise. I started selling merchandise at the first grade as well, which was in 2022. That's not really true. I created merchandise to sell and didn't actually follow the process because I think I was overwhelmed by the planning of the conference that year. And I was more focused on other people succeeding, which was a good thing, but I didn't really put a lot of effort into me, which, spoiler alert, a lot of us creatives and entrepreneurs put more into our clients and other people versus ourselves. And that's why our businesses suffer. That's a whole nother episode. um, but I created the Melanated Mogul shirt in 2022. I went on tour with Poets and Autumn in 2022. And at the end of 2022, I created the Holy Hoodlum hoodie. So I had the two shirts. I had Holy Hoodlum and I had Melanated Mogul. I did almost nothing with it in terms of marketing. So I wanted to have a merchandise brand. I had wanted to have a merchandise brand since probably 2019. Maybe that was 2020. I think I'm just looking at these notes because that's in there. Oh, part of my crazy faith, I watched Transformation Church back in 2019. And when they started their Crazy Faith sermon series. So on September 9th of 2019, I wrote down Crazy Faith would be, the things that I would do Crazy Faith would be a book. I did that. I do have a book out. Podcasts. Doing that now. Speaking engagements. I've done that a few times, more so on marketing versus creativity and this kind of stuff. I think this is newer for people to see me do. But this is truly where I would love to spend more time talking. So, if you know anybody who needs to do like a refresher session for your creatives at churches, organizations, whatever, you just want to talk about creativity in the Bible, just hit me up. You can find me. School for resources has not happened. Multi-purpose coffee shop and studio also has not happened. Managing clients, done that over and over again. Clothing line, doing it. This is also one of the items. And then event and talent management agency, doing that as well. And I put down I'd be the Christian Jay-Z. I don't know if that really aged well, but I wouldn't be all like him, just the emphasis on the Christian part. But that was something I wrote down in 2019. I didn't know half of the stuff that I would be doing now. And so most the stuff that's really not written. Now, granted, one can also argue the crazy faith there wasn't really that crazy, because all that stuff is, except for the school and the venue, most of that stuff is easily attainable on the internet. But for me, it was very outside of my scope. At 2019, I was not very forward in my gifts, right? I was always a behind the scenes person. I was never on camera. I never wanted to talk and speak and do all these things. But luckily, God has made me no longer be that way. So here we are now. Now you get to listen to me on Tuesday mornings at 9:30 when this goes live. But yeah, so like I can look back at there and see that the vision, that stuff is coming to pass, or it has already come to pass. With my clothing line, I was not nearly as specific as I was with the Create as well with any of these documents. Like I've got whole Google Docs about my business and this and that. But with the clothing line, this past year, I actually did a little bit better in terms of like making the vision like happen, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh, you have a clothing line, it's under your just what you need principle of your business, under the just what you need arm of the business. Like, what do you really do with it? And I couldn't for the life of me ever really answer why I wanted the clothing to exist. So the purpose of the clothing, another purpose of the vision being written down, is to be able to present God's messages and other positive messages through apparel. So like we'll have scriptures on graphical representations of scriptures, because some people learn by pictures and images, some people learn by written. So some shirts will just, like this shirt, shameless plug, it will just have like it's just writing, right? Just in a interesting design. I like this one a lot. Came up with this really randomly. Others will be more of a photo. Others will be a combination of photo and words, right? But the purpose of the clothing line is to evangelize and spread the gospel and just positive, good messages, such as like Melanated Mogul, Holy Hoodlum, of course, is about Romans 12:1-2. I've got a crew neck that says image bearer. Black AF is a positive one, right? Black and flourishing, just to like really be like, John 10:10 with an Afrocentric twist on it. But yeah, so that was with me. So like number two, make sure that you make it plain. So like, how are you going to get the merchandise out? So when I first started, I was not marketing it. I was not really getting models. This past year in 2024, I did the first photo shoot that I actually used the pictures of. So my friends, they know in 2022, I think, yeah, I think that was 2022. I did a photo shoot. Photos came out really nice. My family and friends were models. They did an excellent job. I did not use them. Now I also don't sell those items for real anymore. So that's part of it as well. But this past year, I actually worked with Servant Studios. One of my really good friends, Micah Harris. He and I collaborated on a photo shoot. I was very specific on how I wanted the photos to be done. He brought all the vision to life. Again, I wrote the vision. Like, if you would look at the document I sent him for the photo shoot, it was very clear of like what things I wanted to be done. Like, show this, show this, show that. I want this pose. I want that pose. I want this connection. I want this to be a composition. I want whatever the case is, right? And that was able to bring out very quality photos and good B-roll videos that I've been able to post throughout the entire holiday season. And this year did very well in terms of our revenue, just for like a short stint of promotion, because to be honest, I still have not scratched the surface on how much I could be promoting this clothing line and really trying to message into it. But that's another conversation for another day. But yeah, like because of me being very specific and saying I wanted to make like legitimate like this clothing brand actually be something, I actually did something with it. And that's what stops us as creatives. We have the idea, we write the vision, but we won't do our actionable steps. So like you've got the merch, cool. How are you marketing it? Who are you collaborating with? This coming year, I'm going to be even more aggressive with the merchandise, right? I just did my numbers. And it's kind of going into the next point. But okay, so we'll just go there again. No real plan. The third thing with writing the vision is know where you're coming from. Know what your foundation is. So if it's something that's starting brand new, then you just need to know what your foundation is. Where are you starting? Like for me with the create as well, when I started it and the first thing I was going to do was an in-person event, I was like, okay, I know I have X amount of followers on Instagram at the time. I have this amount of dollars for a budget. I can reach out to people to sponsor this event because I need the money. So I reach out to family and friends to help like contribute to the create as well. So like what did I have? I had a place I could do it there. I had resources. I knew musicians. I knew how to get the bare bones of the event together. Just had to get the people to the event, which is still always a struggle. But it is what it is. Again, February 1st, Saturday, February 1st, create as well, Woodbridge, Virginia. Just come on through. It's gonna be fun. It's worth the money you're paying. Because let me tell you this: you're getting me, you're getting, and I'm learning. I know some stuff. I really do. You have to ask the right questions, and you'll get a wealth of information out of me. I'm just saying because I've been working with some amazing people over the years. So, hold on. Did it switch? Cool, great. Um, the microphone just switched for a second, and that's always fun. Um, so you have me there, a wealth of knowledge, and curating the show. Again, podcast style, so also a little random, but also a bit more prepared. Jasmine Sims, amazing poet. Jazir Willis, he's gonna be there, amazing poet. Spoken word artists, they're just artists, and they're gonna take us through a journey. We're gonna have a fun pre-show with me and Lady T, good music with the Cousins band, and I wrote a new song, so we're gonna sing to that. Like it's just gonna be a great time. So anyway, come, you hear more about it on Instagram or Facebook or just the podcast throughout January. You're gonna hear it every single time. But anyway, so know what you have, write your vision, make it plain, and know your foundation, or know where you came from. So one of my overarching goals in life is to be fully self-employed. Like that's like it's a goal of mine because it's like, oh, I have a business. I would love for my business to be able to take care of me, and eventually, hopefully, a wife and kids. Right? Or maybe just one kid because this economy just one. So it's like, I want to be able to have legitimate money. So today, before doing this, I now know where I came from as far as this past year. And so I going to share how much money I made. So a lot of people think that I'm really rich, right? Because they see the people that I work for and things of that nature. And I'm not. Mm, I'm not going to share the exact number, but I'm going to say, because some of you might say that I'm crazy. Um, I did not make that much money, but I'm trying to figure out how to put this in context without being super, super specific. Um, oh, well, because I don't want to down anybody's experience. Okay, so the money I made is not enough. Uh, it's not enough for a salary, right? So the goal of business, if you're trying to have your business replace your salary, is that you need to at least match your salary consistently. It was a third ish of my salary. So essentially, if this business that made money over the course of all of 2024 was my full time business, I would only be able to eat and survive for a third of the year. It's not that great. So I was discouraged, right? Like today when I like calculated the money out, Especially considering one of the things that brings me the majority of the revenue of the business. One of my clients is someone that I'm considering leaving for a variety of reasons. So nothing bad, nothing shady, nothing whatever, but just like I think it's time. But that client brings a good amount of the like a big chunk of the revenue, right? So today I was like, I did the revenue. I said, man, I didn't even make that much money. Like speaking of like from the perspective of it taking over my salary. I said, dang, like I would be poor. Like essentially by that, I wouldn't be able to afford the house that I live in. I wouldn't be able to afford really my bills or whatever. Like I'm not there with the business income, right? And then if I take away the other money, I'm really not gonna be there, right? Then I did the expenses, and the expenses come from the events, right? So Holy Hoodlum did that this year. Sorry, last year. So I did Holy Hoodlum last year. I did Create as well, and I did Carols for a Cause. The thing about Carols for a Cause is I don't sell tickets for Carols for a Cause. It's a free show, so it's all expenses to the business. Like that's just all there is to it. So that entire show, which was not an expensive show whatsoever, it still was a hit. And then of course you got to take out all of the shipping, all the garments, all the like setup fees and like stuff for merchandise and all that. So put it all together, I think the total profit was also not good. I'm just put it this way: the profit is essentially one semester's worth of tuition, depending on what school you go to. Which, again, not that good. So that I'd be able to live for a semester in college off of my business, if you want to look at it that way. So not that it's bad, because there are definitely people who don't make anywhere near this amount of money, right? The Lord had to really check me in that today. But why I'm saying all this and why I'm trying to be transparent without telling you all of the business is that you have to know your numbers. So as a creative, as a creator, as a business owner, know your numbers, because your vision could either be way too big. I don't want to say way too big, but your vision may need to be broken down into bite-sized pieces, or, and this is what happens to a lot of people, your vision may be too small. There are a lot of people out there who will say, I want to put on an event and only invite and have like an audience of 20 people. If you have an engaged social media following, and you know that the event is at a good time for your people, and it's also like in a good place, your tickets are well priced, and you've got people, 20 people is gonna be like think bigger, dream bigger, like, right, get a 50 seat venue or 100 or whatever the case is, right? I took I remember taking Jasmine on tour last year at this point. Wow. And she literally was like, you think 20 people will come to every city? And I was like, yes. Like, you've done tour stops with over 500 people. Of course, you were on, the full bill for reports and all that, but that means that all those people have seen you in those cities. And as long as we can get in contact with them, or we can reach out to them, we can do whatever, like, these people will find you, right? And they'll want to come, especially if you make it enticing and all the things. So, like, sometimes when you look at your numbers and you look at your data, you'll be like, man, my vision is too small. So maybe I should dream bigger. So for me, for example, merchandise sales, um, I think it was $2,900 I made in just revenue of merchandise. Cool. So originally today I was like, I hope I make $1,000 in revenue for merch. Well, I can do that. Like, I can do it. I've proven that happened this year, and it was haphazard because there were pop up shops, which will say that did take up the majority of the revenue for the merchandise kind of column of my company. But I also had the website. So the website was like $835 of that 2,900, and the rest was all pop up shops. So what does that show me? It shows me a couple of things. It shows me that I need to go harder for digital marketing, because there's a lot of money to be made in digital marketing, right? And I don't ever want this podcast to turn into one of those like money hungry like things, because that's not what it is. But there's a lot of money in the digital marketing space and e-commerce, right? So if you have a really good product, you really need to just get like your stuff together so that you can make sure it's seen. So get your SEO together, search engine optimization, Make sure your websites are clean. Make sure your links are all working. That your discount codes all apply when they're supposed to. Like, just make sure your system is well oiled, right? But for me, the majority of the revenue from the merchandise actually came from in-person pop-up shops. So what does that tell me? At this point, it's telling me that I'm converting people better in person. It's telling me that I'm doing something, or the team that's selling is connecting with people in a better way in person. Um, it's also telling me that it's actually worthwhile to do these pop-up shops because they add up. Even if one, you only sell $100 worth of stuff, depending on the vendor fees, like, you could end up really making some good money. So, and I use that example for merchandise, but I just want you to, like, to think about whatever your thing is. For me, if I say I want to sell $5,000 in ticket sales for an event, well, I think it was Holy Hoodlum. I think it was like $1,500 or $1,600 in ticket sales. How am I going to make that jump? Let's think about that. Not to say that there's a limit on what God can do, but when you're doing the vision, okay, what do I need to do? I did this amount of posting and this amount of collaborating with people, and it got me this result. So now, if I'm trying to get to 5,000, I've got to, like, basically what? I've got to double it. No, nope, that math is wrong. uh, triple to quadruple it, like, in there, because it's 16. So doing that quick math. So you've got legitimate work to do. Sorry, my brain's now calculating the math in my head. Like, you didn't say that correctly. Uh, so you know what you have to do, right? For me, for merchandise, my goal now for next year is to get $3,500 in merchandise. That's really only about $500 extra. So over the course of the year, if I do everything I did this year, I need to do $500 more. I probably could move it to 4K. I probably could. We'll think about that. That's a good thing for me to think about. But I do think that now, with the products that I have, with the array of products that I have, the seasonal nature of the products I have, like, now I have hoodies and t-shirts and hats. I also need to get the book back in rotation. Um, like, there are options. There are things that can be sold at various times of the year. Right beforehand, this is the first year that I actually had hoodies, like, at my disposal, hoodies and crew necks. Um, and, it's a great time to buy them still. But anyway, so I say all this to say, wrapping up, write the vision, make it plain so that others can take it and carry, like, and start. Write the vision, make it plain so that others can carry it to completion. Though the vision may take some time, like, you need to remain steadfast, because the vision will happen. And I say all this to say, like, in January, it's the perfect time. Everybody's super energized. Really, I should probably have done this in, like, March, because that's when people really fade. Because it's really hard, because algorithms suck, right? Like, you have the best content of your life, and only two people see it or like it, right? It's sad. It really is. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you. It is discouraging to spend time editing something and only, like, five people like it, or, like, a couple people share it, or in my case, like, this is what happens often, so I'm not really shocked by it anymore. Like, I've got the event coming up at the end of the month. Well, sorry, at the beginning of the next month, or whatever. Um, no one's bought a ticket yet. At this point, everybody buys my tickets in the last 2 weeks. So I can't even really be, like, shocked at this point. But have I not, like, sober myself to be like, chill out, Justin. It's okay, because they're just gonna buy them at the last minute anyway, right? Um, so, have a reference, have your point of reference, stay true to your vision, but also, like, if God is giving you this vision, it's going to come to pass. If God told you you're going to write songs that people are going to listen to, ask Him how many people. A good brother of mine made me very upset on Christmas Day. It was just very, very sad. You shouldn't have spiritual conversations on Christmas, the night of Christmas. Like, that's just not cool. But I ended up talking to him about success, or my lack of success, um, and he he told me, he said, you should ask God what the definition of success is for you, for me. Um, and his wife, my sister, she's equally made me sad that night. She like told me as well. She was like, you've changed so much in the past 5 years. And to be completely honest, and if they're listening, if they do listen to this, who knows? But like, I finally came up with my list. Like, I would have never done this podcast 5 years ago. Would have never, never. I don't think I'm still perfect at this. I'm not some world class orator, uh, but I would have never done this. I would have, like, you all used to see my little short just what you need videos. I remember doing those, but that was it. They would be like 1 to 5 minutes, and I would read a script. I would have a teleprompter app on the iPad. I would hit it and I would run over to the camera and I would record it, and it would be a script. There is no script. There's just like my phone and some notes. I don't even know where the notes are. Oh, here they are. The notes literally say, "Do you want a resolution?" And I put my numbers, my actual revenue numbers on here, and the final thing is, "What are you gonna do this year?" So, like, that's all I got, y'all. Like, stick to the vision, because the vision will actually come to pass. I don't know when. I can't tell you that it'll happen this year. I'm not going to tell you that things will happen suddenly. I'm not going to tell you that things will happen in the next 5 to 10 years. Right? I told him and his wife that I told myself that I'm going to go hard for the next 3.5 years, and at 35, I'm going to quit. If it's not successful, I'm going to quit. And they both looked at me and they were like, why? And I was like, because I'll be too old at that point. And they were like, no, you won't. And I think the fact of the matter is, like, we are impatient, right? Like, we have an idea, we want to launch it, we want it to be successful immediately. But I can honestly say that if I had an event that sold out instantly at this moment, I don't think I would handle it well. I really don't. I think I would be cocky. I think I wouldn't depend on God. I think I wouldn't really depend on the wisdom of my team. I think at this very moment, if I had an event with 1,000 people, I wouldn't handle it well. I wouldn't like that. One, I would not like that attention. That would probably give me anxiety, to get on the stage in front of that many people. I'd also be confused as to why they were there, because, like, who are you here for? And why are this many people here? But yeah, so that kind of stuff is what, like, yeah, like, you got to think about the timing of God, because I can honestly say, and here's the flip side of that. I could be good and be able to handle it, but another thing I think of is, I don't think I was mentally healthy enough to handle that much success. I think there's a level, especially working with very successful people, traditionally successful in terms of, like, follower counts, events, selling out, all that kind of stuff. Working with them, knowing the burdens that they have to deal with, like the trolls that come for them, the internet, like, fools, like the comments. Like, I already get like I won't say a fair share, but like, anytime you put something out, people say stuff that's crazy, right? And I get a little bit of that now. I don't know if I could get to the level that they get. Like, I've seen some of the DMs that people send to some of our favorites. I've seen, like, I'm just like, people said that to you, like, and you still get on here and preach. I would have cussed you out. I would have been like, you don't get a word from the Lord today. You get a word from Justin. So, created me a clean heart and a right spirit. And I haven't really gotten all of that yet. My heart's still loading. So maybe that's why God won't bless it as well. Like, and I think there are things that we have to know, that, like, God is sovereign. He's not going to let the blessing burn you down and become a curse. So I say all that to say, write the vision, make it plain. It will happen. Let the people know. That's your homework. So if any people say, like, I like this episode, cool, great. What's your vision? What are you gonna do this year? What are you gonna accomplish? What are your steps? What are your metrics? And how can you look back now at the end of 2025 and be proud of what you did all throughout 2025? Because today, looking at my revenue, I'm not happy with it. Um, Again, I am grateful, because it could be zero, right? No one had to buy a single shirt or hoodie from me. Nobody had to book me to do anything. Nobody had to hire me to speak. Nobody had to do any of that stuff. No one had to do any of that. But people did. And for that, I'm grateful. I really am. But I also know that if it's going to be my year to launch out, I need some money. So I'm not sure if it's this year. So, maybe it will be 35 where I become a full time entrepreneur, because right now, I couldn't afford the items on the Daniel fast if it was just business income. So, peace out. It's also a V for vision. So, see you guys later. Thanks for coming. And buy your tickets to the parade as well.